Welcome to today's podcast episode on MonicaAnn. I'm your host, MonicaAnn. If you have not done so, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a podcast episode. Thank you so much, Karla, for, allowing yourself to be on my podcast and share your testimony. I'm so grateful. And I'm actually excited because I don't know your testimony. So everybody is hearing this at the exact same time. So thank you so much. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and roll into who you are and what you do.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Monica. I am so honored to be here. First, because I'm just so thankful that I get to talk about my relationship with the Lord and to glorify Him. And so to me, like that's the best thing ever. I could talk about so many things, but sharing about my relationship with Jesus is something that I just really hold very deep in my heart because it is something that I have found for myself, you know. And hello, everybody. My name is Karla, and I'm here in Las Vegas. If you see my background, um, I call it the Saved City. I always say that the word Las Vegas has the word save in it. And so I always call this the Saved City because we're sin abounds, and also it's Grace City, grace abounds. And I actually grew up in Orange County. Well, technically, I grew up in the Philippines. I came to America when I was 10 years old. So I came in May 30th of 1995 is when we arrived in the city of Orange. And that's
Wow.
where I grew up, and then went to high school there, right? We both at Orange High School.
Yeah.
And so all of that, like from Sycamore to Portola to Orange High School. And then when I was 20 is when we moved out here to Las Vegas. My husband came out here to be with his dad to help him with his business, and so we moved to Las Vegas. And it was like, what in the world? A
Yeah.
whole different place. All my siblings are in California. I have six siblings,
Oh,
and so
wow.
everybody's there. I'm the only one here. My husband has his siblings too, um, and they're all there. So we're really the only ones here, and my father-in-law, and it's actually during that time specifically when I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, Scarlett. She really helped me to find Jesus in that sense of, wanted to grow more. But I was also just seeking all the time. Um, I've always felt God's hand in my life. Now I look back and God just showed me so much of how much his hand was on me as a little girl.
Yeah.
And my family was is very much a very faith-based family. They believed in the Lord, and I'm so grateful I do have that lineage of both sides of family are always calling out to Jesus for for everything. And
Wow.
so I've seen that. I've seen that, growing up. But there were definitely some very tough times. Especially when, being young, like I mentioned, I came to America at 10 years old. And so um, my mom came to America before all of us did with my grandparents, and my dad stayed back in the Philippines. And so for a couple of years, we were separated from my mom so she could bring all of us here legally to the United States. So that
Oh,
was
that
really
had to have been
hard.
hard. Yeah.
As so if you think about it, it was 6 years. Yeah, I came, I was 10, so maybe I was about four. But thank God for telephones, right? Like we could still
Yeah.
call on the phone, even though it was long distance. But God's hand and she was she's a praying woman. My mom is a mighty praying woman, and she's amazing. And so praise God. Because of that, I truly believe, having that faith was crucial for us to just continue to stay connected, even though when we were apart.
Yeah.
That really, really helped us. But I was about um 22, actually about 18, so I started in a business and in legal services, and I really got to be around some of the most amazing minds in personal development. Got to meet Jim Rohn, got to meet Zig Ziglar, and um, just Robert Kiyosaki, all these amazing personal development philosophers. And, everybody always, like a lot of them pointed to God also, right? And it was,
Yeah.
I had my faith. I was going. As a matter of fact, I'm sure you're familiar with Holy Family. Like that was our first church that we went to in Holy Family in California, and that we actually went to all the time. And it's the funniest thing is my husband, I didn't meet him until after high school, but I like known his family since I came to America. Like I just didn't know that they were cousins, you know what I mean? I think God did
Yeah.
that on purpose, like don't meet yet, meet after high
Yeah.
school type thing. That's kind of a funny situation. But anyhow, I was actually at his grandparents' house and looking at this book and I'm like, wait, that's my family portrait, like in this Holy Family book. It was kind of a cool thing, like, whoa. I'm like, we're
Yeah.
meant to be. I don't know, it's so funny, but
That is funny.
I'm like caught off track, sorry.
No, I thought that you guys had met or that you guys started dating in high school.
No,
That's
it
what I
was like
thought.
right after high school. Well, I was 18, it was like right after high school. I graduated at 17 because my birthday's in November. And I think I,
Mhm.
I actually skipped a grade of, I was when I left the Philippines, I was in fourth grade. When I came here, like I took some tests or whatnot, and they actually put me in sixth grade. And it
Uh,
was pretty advanced there. And it was actually pretty funny when I think about some of the times because when you come from another country, they think English is your second language. And I did have like a thicker like accent. It just came from the Philippines and stuff, but knowledge wise, like I actually was excelled a lot in English in the Philippines more than I did in our Filipino classes.
oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so it's
That's
so funny.
cool.
My teacher was like, "Did you write this thing?" Because she's like, "You're in this cell class," and I'm like, "Yeah, I wrote it." And she's just like, "This is crazy," But that's an aside. The education system. I went to a private school before I came here in the Philippines, and so our
Wow.
we really took education very, very seriously there. Um, which is why I'm so passionate about education here.
Mm.
Actually, is part of like what I do now and really empowering families with that with education because I think it's so crucial. Um,
Wow.
and it's not just getting a degree, but really understanding, right? Having a true understanding what you're learning, not just so that you can pass or whatnot. But
Yes.
but anyhow, yeah, so we met after high school and I was like and he was like, "Yeah, my grandmother would take me and I'd have to clean, the church and stuff like that with her." And I was like, "That is so crazy." But
Yeah.
it's also so cute and sweet. And I think about like, okay, that's God's hand. There's a
Yeah.
plan for everything. It's like when I start looking back, it's like the way he puts things together. It's like little puzzle pieces. And to
Hmm.
me, it's just like so beautiful the way he molds things. And he is the master potter, and we are his clay. And
Yes.
and a lot of it, it's like, here I am, Lord, send me is really,
Yeah.
where it was. So being around a lot of mentors, with the business and stuff and being around even like youth pastors and different I just got to I was going to um a different church and I always love to take notes and I love taking notes and I like to whatever it is that I was gleaning from like oh that's the word today and this week and I would hold on to those things to help me because I was always in the path of knowledge and growing. One of my favorite quotes is from Michelangelo, and he says, at 87 years old, I'm still learning. Like, that's the quote.
Mhm.
I'm still learning at 87 years old because we never stop learning. And we should
Yeah.
never stop learning because when we stop learning, we're dying, and inside
Hmm.
it's all about having a growth mindset and, trying to become better, not for anybody else, but so that we can be better people. And
Absolutely.
especially becoming as parents, right? Like how
Yes.
do I want to rear
Yeah.
my children? And I want them to have the same type of growth mindset that they're not just limited and staying stagnant. So
Yeah.
um so I just was around with a lot of that and I just felt but God was really pulling me into just understanding him deeper and deeper. And it was actually at an event. No, it wasn't. I was going to go to, Jim Rohn had just passed away, and there was going to be an event that same weekend, and it was going to be in California, and I was going to go, but I didn't end up going. So
Mhm.
I contacted some of my business partners to meet at Starbucks, like, hey, let's come together, let's have a little business powwow, let's, game plan and stuff. And ended up being one was the pastor, like an associate pastor, and my friend who just started coming to church, and he really just loves Jesus. So they were just taught. We ended up being a Jesus, conversation the whole time. I mean, we did talk some business, but then and then the next day was going to be it was going to be the Saints versus the Colts. It was 2010, February 7th, 2010, and they were like, the day before is when I met him, the 6th, and they were like, hey, come to church. And at that time, it was, we had to do everything on MapQuest. So I like typed it in, printed it out.
I love it.
Printed it out. Plus, like I moved to Vegas in 2005. So I mean, I was getting to know places, but you still are getting like where you live. Sometimes you kind of stay in that bubble a little bit, and then you're
Yes.
trying to venture out different places. But I feel like through working through the business and stuff, I was able to get to know Las Vegas, Henderson, and all places
Yeah.
because
I
I
love that
had to
meme.
travel.
Yeah, I love that meme that says, "Can you believe that we used to print out our directions on MapQuest like we were pirates on a treasure hunt?"
I love that meme. I think I have that saved on my phone
Yeah.
because those things make me I just chuckle for hours with those kind of things. Like those things just make me laugh so much.
Oh, we've
Yeah, so
come a
it was
long way.
we have come a long way, but you know what? I love that though. They're like, why do you, I actually like directions like, oh, you're gonna go west, you're gonna go east, because I actually know where northwest, east, and which way to go with
Yeah.
that. So I actually like it. I'm like, ooh, look at me, like this is my Thomas guide.
Yes. I
It's
love
the
it.
nerd. It's so nerdy. But
You're aging us now with the Thomas Guide reference, by the way.
even MapQuest.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's so fun. But it's okay. Like you look forever young, and it's
Oh,
okay.
same for you.
Right? We're gonna be forever young. I just turned 40, and so it's great. Like I thank God, as a matter of fact, like how amazing that I am 40 now that I'm here. And I'm sure you can say the same thing because our lives could have been cut short many times.
Yes.
And he has saved us,
Absolutely.
and his hand was on us.
Oh,
And that's when
100%.
it's so real. That's why it's so exciting to talk about it because he
Yeah.
has brought me first so far, like so far.
Yeah.
And yeah, so driving there, it was so funny. I was like, do I go left to the church I was going to, or this church? And I was just in this zone of I just want to know you more, Lord. Like I just was so hungry for
Hmm.
that thirst of that relationship, because I knew my parents knew the Lord and loved him and my grandparents, but I wanted that relationship for myself to
Hmm.
fully understand his goodness and to understand who he is in my life. And so I started going and I just started driving there. I'm like, okay, I looked at my map quest and kind of got the idea. So I wasn't looking at the whole time while I was driving. And so I started driving there, and this was actually before we moved to our current church now. So we were like on Sahara in Maryland, like if you remember Vegas, like that's a little bit more in the
Hmm.
east, and so near this trip, and I just started driving, and I went in there, and I just felt such a beautiful presence. I just felt
Hmm.
such a beautiful, sweet, just welcoming presence of the Lord. And I was just so drawn to it. And I was like, wow, like he met me there is what I felt.
Hmm.
And
And what religion are you?
I'm a Christian. It's a non-denominational Christian. And so we have like Pentecostal apostolic beliefs. But
I love
really
it.
yes, we are, just born again believers.
Yeah.
Um,
I always like to ask that because I feel like so many people, I'm a big believer that however you find God, that's that's the direction you need to go. And just like you're saying that you had that feeling, you had that experience, some people will have that experience in different type of religions, right? And so I'm a big believer, like wherever you feel closest to God, whatever type of church, whatever type of religion, I'm like, go there. So I always like to ask that so that people can, be open to it, basically.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
yeah, I love it.
Yes. No. So, I mean, that's really kind of, like I walked in there and they were just so welcoming too. And I think that's more than anything too, right? Because when you feel loved and welcome at a place, you are more
Yes.
engaged, obviously. But when I went in there, it was just really just me and the Lord. Like I was there focused on just like, I'm gonna go, and I mean, I said hello to my friend Jesse and who
Mhm.
invited me and stuff. But I was just like, I'm gonna go, even if I didn't find him when I got there. I was just like, I'm gonna go to the altar and just pray. And it was just really such a refreshing, like restoring feeling. It literally is like in Psalm 23 where He lays you beside still waters, and He like there was so much peace
Mhm.
and just restoration that I was feeling, and such a like that moment of just going up after the pastor Kevin preached, and it was so beautiful. And so I just and I've never left. I've just stayed there now, so I've been a part of the church
Oh.
since 2010. And one of the things that God had really shown me, because how God uses some things in your life from especially childhood and just your past experiences, and it actually becomes part of your purpose, right? And
Mhm.
why you want to help, like you want to be the person that you needed when you were younger, you know?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so,
I
so
definitely felt very alone. And there are times when it was so clear, even now, I could have a million friends, even previously being married, but God
mhm,
was the one constant thing that I've had in my life. And so, yeah, I've definitely been there.
yes, yes. And one of the amazing visions that like when I first stepped in the church, like God just showed me some visions of just beautiful things, and of an academy, which we actually now have at our church. We
Wow.
started a micro school academy in 2020 when everything shut down. We opened it up,
So,
and
what exactly is that?
it's a micro school, like a private school. So it's from K
Okay.
through 12. Yeah, so it's really,
Wow.
I know, it's like so awesome and it's growing, and we even have sports programs now. Like
Did you
it's
have a
so
hand in
beautiful.
that?
I did a help. Yeah, yes,
Oh.
yeah. But we all came together as a church. And well, our pastor was like, "Hey, we're gonna." That was the time, and I'm just laughing. I'm like, God, I know you showed me this vision when I came like in
Mm.
2010, and I know my pastors have wanted to do the same
Wow.
thing, but it's just so funny that it happened during 2020, during COVID, where everything shut
Yeah.
down.
Oh, yeah,
But
of
it's God's
course.
sense of humor. Like it's like, okay,
Yeah.
it's never our timing. You know what I mean? You just think, oh gosh, what do we do? We open it up in like within 2 to 3 months. Like we had to figure out like curriculum and do the admin stuff, like all the things. But we all came together, and some of the leaders came together and just put our heads together, and yeah, I got to teach and do some of the admin stuff. Like my kids are
Wow.
still attending. They're my two youngest. But it's yeah, it's the funniest thing. That's when it's like, okay, God's hands on that, like
Yes.
he was showing this. But my heart has always been like, I want to help. In James, now that we're talking, somehow the scripture is not coming to my brain, but true religion is to be there for orphans and widows, right? And to not be
Mhm.
polluted in this world. And so that has been kind of one of my like scriptures that I've
Mhm.
held on to for such a long time, because I've seen, children just like abandoned, and I just feel that like pain and that hurt for them. And not that I was
Yeah.
ever like an orphan, but just being separated from your parents and stuff, you can feel that like not necessarily abandonment, but there is that void, right? There's that void
Yeah.
that you seek for. And so I want to be there for the children. And so I immediately started getting involved in children's ministry. And one of the things that God had shown me is like, you're going to be, helping. in different, I was like, I want to help people all around the world. Like I want to be able to like just touch the lives of these beautiful children. And when you say those things, you have to be ready because God might just give it to you. And you and
Yes.
then you're like, wait, hold on, so but I'm like, here I'm Lord, like just use me. And it's the one of the most beautiful things that came out of it was that 2009, actually the year just a few months before I started coming to our church. um I had already been praying. I was like, God, I just want to be there for children around the world. And if there's a widow, like that I end up knowing, like help me to like love on them. I love the elders, by the way. Like I'll adopt just all
No.
seniors. I'll adopt all seniors. I just
Yeah.
love them so much. Seniors and kids, like I'll adopt them all. But seniors, I just have such heart for them, especially the widows. Like I just want to be there for them and comfort them. And God had allowed me to really be there for them when I had prayed that prayer. It's like right after I graduated high school, I started working for Kindred Hospital in Brea, and I
Very
worked at the
cool.
long-term acute hospital, and it was like a 44-bed hospital. And so there's a lot of widows and a lot that, them that were visiting their spouse and then they passed away and stuff. And I was able to stay connected with a lot of those elders and just like love on them. And so God definitely started bringing that already because he knew I wanted to be there and love on them, and I said,
Yeah.
yes, like be there. And that's because I said yes. And that's just the obedience part of it has nothing to do of how great I am. It's because like I just love, I want to love on them. And I
Hmm.
asked God. And so he made that way and opened that door for me to do it,
Yeah.
And so I'm
I
so
feel the
grateful for
same
that.
way. I feel the same
Right?
way. I feel like I have so much love that is just ready to be like poured out. And so I found, because I pray and I'm like, well, God, like, what is my purpose? And sometimes the purpose is in simple things. And I found that in like being intentional and acknowledging everyone that I come across. So
Yeah.
whether it be like the greeter at Walmart or
Yes.
the person checking me out at the cash register, I make it a point that I look at their name tag, I say their name, I just simply acknowledge their existence. And
Yeah.
I feel like that light that I have inside of me and the love that I have for perfect strangers. And I have the ability, I don't want to say confidence. People always say that it's confidence with me. And I'm like, I don't know that I call it confidence, but I don't have any reservations of meeting new people. And so
Yeah.
I just found that spreading my love and my light that way, I feel like is part of my purpose. So that's
Yeah.
beautiful that you found that through the children and the seniors. Whereas
Yeah.
for me, and I'm actually going to craft with somebody that I love very dearly, that for medical reasons was confined to home, that is going to help me craft a podcast on how to care for people who are confined to their
Yeah.
home. I don't have that natural ability.
Mm.
I don't. It's very odd. And I have so much regrets from my grandfather who passed away. He had multiple strokes and couldn't speak.
Mm.
And I didn't know how to treat him. And it wasn't that I didn't want to have conversation with him because he couldn't talk back. He couldn't form sentences once he had the first few strokes. And
Mm.
I didn't know how to have a conversation with him. Whereas my sister could talk to him for hours and just sit there without him responding. And when
Mm.
he passed away, I had so much regret. I was like, why did I respond that way? I
Mm.
want to learn how to be there for people. So yeah, that's one of my future podcasts that I'm going to work on. So I just absolutely love though
Mm.
that that's like a natural, God-given ability that you have. So that's beautiful. And a lot of people could learn things from you, believe it or not, because not everybody has the
Oh.
ability.
Yeah, I think it's just like you said, the main thing is acknowledgement, right? People don't care how much
Mhm.
you know until they know how much you care. And I really put like when I was working at Kindred Hospital,
Oof,
Um, Sometimes my friends
sorry.
would be like, "Oh, it's okay."
The fly or something was in here. I was like, what is that?
It's a fly on the wall that wants to know what's
Yeah,
happening here in
I
the
was like, what
podcast. It's like,
was
can I be a part of this? He's like, can you?
that? Scared me. But go ahead. Sorry.
No, 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 you're fine. No, what I was saying is that when I was working at the hospital, like I was very intentional with spending like an extra hour. Like I should be off work already, but I wanted to go visit. So after because I was in the front desk, I would admit patients, sign paperwork with patients, with families and stuff like that. And I just got to know the patients. So during my lunchtime, like I'd go say hi. Um, and
Oh.
but after work, I would sometime, like a couple times in the week, I would actually spend like another 30 minutes or more just going to every room just to say hello to them, acknowledge them, like, oh my gosh, what are your favorite things? And, I've snuck in
Oh.
like maybe some jellos here and there, but I would ask the doctor, like, she really loves this orange jello. Like, could she have a sugar-free one? Could I bring her one? Whatever it is.
I
And
love it.
gosh, I remember the patients and the names, like the same thing. I am absolutely the same way with like acknowledging them. They'd be like, "How do you know my name?" I'm like, "It's in your tag." Your tag.
Oh, I love it.
You know what I mean? When
Yeah.
people are like, "How do you know my name?"
Yeah.
Your tag says it. It's like nobody says their name all day. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, I want this and that. And it's like, I think even last night I was out with my friends and I asked this lady at a sushi place and she was like, I'm like, may I ask your name? And she almost got shocked, like, why are you asking for my name? Like,
Yeah.
this is weird,
Are you gonna report me to management?
Yeah. But I was like, no, I just wanted to know your name. I didn't want to just say hey or whatnot. I wanted to say your name. And so,
Mm,
um, and I think even some of my friends like, why do you always ask their names? I said because they're human beings and they're going to be serving with us, and like, and sometimes we ask like, hey, is there something, like Grace, is there a prayer request that you'd like? And even if we're
mm,
out and about, and I think that those point of contacts, right? And if you feel that, and I feel as you just give love to others and you will start um, just creating that ripple effect because
mhm.
that builds something in them, a smile with, and then just say like hello, even just a simple hello, right, to people, and thank you. One of the things
Yes.
that I have at least maybe 20 words now. Don't ask me right now exactly all. But how to say thank you in different languages is one of the things, like hello and
Wow.
thank you are one of the things that I feel we need to really learn. And people get shocked. Like, how did you, like, if they just say where they're from, and then you say thank you to them in that language,
Yeah.
it just, something sparks. And
Mhm.
that comes from a heart of loving others, right? And having the heart of
Yes.
gratitude. And it's because when we're seeking the Lord, and it has everything to do because I have a relationship with the Lord and I'm intentional with that. And like I said, that's one of the words really is being intentional as we can. And
Mhm.
to encourage, but with genuine like sincerity, like being sincere
Yes.
about this because people can feel that, the genuine feeling when we're
Yeah.
when we're saying hello to others, and it really brightens someone's day. Like somebody could be so crabby, like even
Yeah.
I think it was a cash register one of the other days, and she just was like, ugh, like upset, and then I was next, and I was just like, oh my gosh, hi, and I said her
Yeah.
name, and it was at Albertsons, and it like shift her like she lit up. She's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, hi," but she was like so unhappy prior to that, and so it changes the atmosphere too. It changes the
Yes.
environment, right? So it's so important. But so anyhow, like, coming to church, it's so awesome. Just being involved with the children's ministry, and I love being able to just show them examples of what it's like if we have that real heart of worship, and we
Mhm.
especially having the fruit of the spirit, the love, joy,
Mhm.
peace, patience, kindness, goodness, long suffering,
Mhm.
faithfulness, and self-control, and especially self-control. I feel like I talk about that all the time, because we have 3 years old to fifth grade in our when we do like our worship and stuff, like we're all in this one big room, and we're worshiping together, and love being able to display that to them of what it's like when we have in the posture of worshiping, of gratefulness, of just being happy to be able to be around each other,
Hmm.
to be thankful that we are here, we're alive, and also showing them how powerful prayer is and how amazing their prayers are. Even when we had our children's ministry, like our Christmas event, I told them, you're not here, we're not performing, okay? We're not practicing these songs because we're performing these songs. We are here
Mhm.
to minister these songs because there's meanings behind this. And when you are using your spirit of excellence, practicing those songs and really understanding what it means, it doesn't matter if you're 3 years old, you understand, you're going to understand. I feel like their pureness, they can actually understand even more because they're so
Yeah.
pure, these babies. And when we shifted that mindset for the kids, we're like, we're not here to perform, we're administering the word. And it was so powerful. We actually ended up like so many families came up and they were like, we were just so touched. And some kids that hadn't been to church in a while that was just so touched because there was a different thing when we're not out performing, when
Hmm.
you're just being your true genuine self, you're not performing to be yourself or how good you are, you really, that sincerity shines through and you can't
Yeah.
hide that. You can't hide, like you can hide, you can try to be fake, and just be like, oh, I just want to look like great and sound
Yes.
good, but sincerity from the heart, like you can't really duplicate that because you
Mm-mm.
can only do that for so long and pretend for so long, because people are going to
Yeah.
know, like,
Yeah.
okay, is your heart real, right? Like, is this
Yes.
so I think that that is something, that I'm so thankful about. And it's all because of just really trying to grow, trying to become better. And if there's some things like, okay, God, fix me in these areas, like I
Mm.
need help, and what is it that I need to do, and just really asking, how can I get better? Not, I want to
Yeah.
constantly be a better version of myself and not comparing myself to anybody else, but just I want to be a better mom. I want to be a better wife. I want to be a better teacher. I want to be a better advocate. I want to, and so all the different things
Yeah.
that we're doing, asking God. And I think because of that, I've always, he says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall
Mm.
be added unto you. And so for me, that's the thing. It's like I'm gonna seek God, I'm gonna seek the kingdom of what does he want me to do, and how does what I'm doing right now, does this align with the purpose that he has for me? Because I know whatever that is for me is not going to be taken from me if it's for me. But if
Yes.
it's not for me, then it's going to be like a battle because I mean, not
Mm.
that everything that's for you is going to be so easy to be attained, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like there is
Yes.
just that alignment that you just feel and that you
Hmm.
just know that that's what he wants you to do. And sometimes that's the only confirmation you need without like every little thing to be aligned, you just know, okay, this is it.
Yeah.
Um, and so my church family, I gotta say, it has been so amazing. In 2000, when I got pregnant with my son, um, Lincoln, in 2014, I had a mini stroke when I conceived him, and
Oh, it was
it,
when you conceived him. I
yes,
know that you had a mini stroke. I remember you posting about it, but I didn't
yeah,
realize that it was during that time. So, okay.
yeah, no, I had two. So first was
Oh,
with my son, I had the mini stroke. I had a TIA, and that was like I had just conceived him and I didn't know. I didn't even know I was pregnant. And I went to the
oh
doctor.
wow.
They said I was not pregnant, like, but I knew there was something. First of all, this doctor, I'm like, God has forgiven, help me to forgive her already. Because she
Oh,
was just not there. She was just not there. I
mm.
actually ended up finding out that she had like her license revoked and then given back. And she was like, yeah, for like
Oh
DUI because
no.
she was prescribed medication like that.
Oh
It was
no.
just the craziest thing. That's why I was like, God was. And the thing is, I've had a few miscarriages between my son, between my oldest daughter Scarlett and my son Lincoln, and um, that was really hard. I went
Oh.
through some really tough times losing, a few babies in between them. My body was just, I think, has been through so much,
Mm.
and one was really traumatic. Um, and my church family was there for me, and it was really
Oh.
beautiful, how they came together and just comforted me. My pastor's wife is like the best. I love
Mm.
chicken and waffles, okay? And like
Yeah, so
so
do
when I
I.
was not feeling good, she's like, girl, she comes over with some chicken and waffles, and I'm just like,
Oh.
thank you, Jesus. And so,
Oh.
and my daughter, my oldest daughter, it's like she's really was very spiritually gifted as well as a child. And she would just like sing worship songs over me, pray over me, comfort me. I mean, she was like a little angel, like literally
Oh.
God used her tremendously. And that's when I know like God's hand was just in my family and like on her, and she would prophesy actually all my pregnancies and even the ones that went to heaven. It was really crazy. Like she prophesied
That's
about my son.
beautiful.
She just knew every single time without me telling her. Um, so that's when I mean, I know God's so real. Like when
Yeah.
she speaks certain things to me, and I'm like, wow, the wisdom that you have is insane. Like, how do you know? And but every single time she was correct, like down to like, oh, you're gonna go to the doctors, and I know that the doctor's gonna tell you you're gonna have a baby, like about my son, because at first
Oh.
we didn't know. We're like, what? What do you mean? Because they told me I was not pregnant, right? And then I did, and prior to me getting pregnant with Lincoln, my pastor spoke over me. He was like, you're gonna have a son. You're gonna have a son.
Wow.
And another one of our associate pastors had spoken over me. He was like, I just see like all these yellow flowers around you. And I kid you not, when I after I had the stroke with him, and I had to go to and then I uh end up having like food poisoning while I was pregnant with him, and while I still didn't know that I was pregnant. So I was like back to back in just urgent cares and different things.
Oh.
And I would everywhere I would go would like this one urgent care in Cheyenne, like literally had everything was like yellow roses, yellow paintings everywhere. And I was like, he just literally told me I would be like, it was just there were
Yeah.
so many things that were just really significant. And then it was almost 3.5 months that I found out that I was pregnant with him. And so that
Wow.
they were, yeah, because I think that doctor may have just gotten it mixed up because she actually tried to give me somebody else's reports,
Oh
diagnosis.
no.
Yeah. So
Oh.
I know, but God protected me, girl, because I mean, seriously, I laugh right now, but I cried so
Yeah.
much.
I can only imagine. Oh my
I'm like,
goodness.
no, I am not that patient, and that is not my diagnosis.
Oh. You're like, but bless that person for
I
what they're
know.
going through. Ooh.
I hope you're giving them the right information. Oh my gosh. So
Oh.
anyhow, the medical system here, I'm like,
Yeah.
I know God has been with me through it all. And then, so that was in 2014. And so then I had my baby boy, like, praise God. And then 2017, I had my youngest daughter, Astra, and in June. And when she was 9 months old, so in 2018 of March, it's actually going to be 7 years on March 21st, 23rd is when I had the major stroke. I was driving down a very busy Charleston Boulevard, and it's busy, going past Decatur, going to my primary care because I started feeling some pain in my left wrist, and then it was just so numb. And I was like, for a couple days, I was like, oh gosh, this is so weird. I was washing dishes, and it was just started from my wrist, but it just wouldn't go. And I just something in my spirit like go to to the ER, and so we went. And they're like, oh, it's paresthesia, but you should see a neurologist, but you need to see your primary
Oh.
care doctor to get the referral to go see a neurologist, right? Like all these steps. Um, and so that was like a Monday when I went there, and then a Wednesday, 2 days later is when I had the appointment. And so I was driving by myself, and my sister is FaceTiming me, and I was like, and she's like, I can't, your face is not moving. and I'm trying to
Oh, wow.
talk, and it's so busy on the street. And I just was like, in my spirit, was like praying, God, just help me,
Ugh.
you know? I think if I didn't get to my doctor's office on time, it would have been terrible. I
Yeah.
don't even want to imagine it. But I got into my doctor's office, was able to park, somehow able to walk in, write my name, and I sat down, and then I had a stroke.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it was crazy. Yeah. So they actually had to call an ambulance to come get me. And
Oh,
I
wow.
had really, it was crazy. I had a terrible experience at the Valley Hospital, but then got, I was like, God, take me away from here, because somehow I got a little coherent the day before. Now, let me tell you, so Monday is when I went to the ER. Wednesday was when I had the stroke. Friday, I was supposed to get naturalized as a US citizen, was my actual swearing in.
Oh, what a big day
And
for you.
I know,
Oh.
but okay, let me tell you, this is how God works though. I have to say this is like as God as possible. My mom, I really wanted her to be there because she worked her butt off to get all of us here legally, right? So I was like, I
Yeah.
really wanted her to be there, but she's from California, and she worked at the hospital, and they wouldn't let her go to go to my naturalization. They didn't approve her thing. But anyhow, because I was hospitalized, she was able to come right away here that Wednesday, right? Or that Thursday. And she was able, I was like, God, please take me out of this hospital. And it was Thursday because it was just so bad there. He was able, I don't know how I was even able to be discharged because like my friend was like, are you sure you should be discharged? Right? Like I could
Yeah.
barely walk. I had tremors. I looked like I had Parkinson's.
Oh
Um,
no.
but they released me, and I felt so thankful to God. They released me. And so the next day, Friday, I was able to go. And this is right after a big stroke. Like I was able to go to my naturalization. My mom was there. Because I was in a cane and just shaking, they let me sit up front. And well, like number 13, and that's like my grandparents' like favorite number, and they both went to heaven.
Oh.
They're my mom's parents, and I was just felt like everything was like God was just speaking to me. He speaks to me a lot in numbers
Mhm.
and stuff like that too. And so I ended up sitting there. They even asked me to speak. I don't even know how I spoke while I'm shaking with tremors. Like somehow all these things
Yeah.
happened without, like, I still am like, how did any of those things happen? Like how? And I went there, got naturalized. The next day I had another stroke, and then I was sent to Summerlin Hospital, and I was there for like over a week or so. And it was
Wow.
so crazy because then, I was there, but God had blessed me with such amazing people in the medical field here. And he's an angel. I think you know him, Dr. Wilkes. Um,
Oh
he's a
yeah.
perinatologist here in
Yeah.
Vegas. He's like he's an angel. He's like, I think there's a cult following of all of us who just are in love with him as a doctor. My
Oh.
husband loves him. My kids love him because he helped with Lincoln. I have high risk pregnancy, so with Lincoln, like
Yeah.
he was there, and then with Astra, he was actually the one who delivered her. And
Oh.
so with all the things that was happening with me and all these tests and trying to give me all these medications. She's 9 months. I'm still nursing her. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm so tired. Like, so my husband like texted him on my phone and was like,
Oh.
can you see like what prescriptions and stuff are okay, like that's a where she can still somewhat nurse a little bit, like pump and dump and then nurse and stuff. And we thought he was like, okay, what room are you and stuff like that. And I hadn't seen him for, 9 months at that point because Ash was already 9 months. And
Oh.
he didn't only just like call the hospital, he went to my room and he came
Oh.
over and he prayed with my family. Oh,
You
my
made me
mom is
cry.
just like in love with him. He's like the best. I like, Dr. Wilkes is awesome. I always plug it, like tell
Oh.
everybody, go to him if you need to see a high risk doctor. But he's an angel. Like, imagine all of that, even all those things that are happening. God was still so much, his hand was there. And
Yeah.
even the attending nurse that was there at that ER at Summerlin Hospital, he knows my primary care doctor because she was his she was his instructor, nurse instructor. So it just like was so crazy. And then I got referred to, and then I had to see my a neurologist finally after I had gotten discharged. And then the young nurse practitioner neurologist, she was also a student of my primary care doctor in India
Oh,
for
wow.
nursing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how
Yeah.
crazy is that?
Yep.
My primary is amazing. I love her. Dr. Annie is like the coolest, amazing. Yeah. So I'm like, God, wow. Like you have your hand on me despite whatever. And even at the office that day that I had the stroke there was a lady that was there. She was only there that one time. She was only
Wow.
helping Dr. Annie at that time. And I found out that she is actually an ER nurse focused, and she specializes for stroke patients at the
Wow.
ICU. And she was there just to help that day somehow.
Yeah.
And I was there and that happened, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was, and the way that my church family just came together, my family, but like they would come, I mean, down to our bishop's wife that would come, you know, and be with me because I couldn't carry Astra to nurse her or anything. And by the grace of God, like I nursed her up until 18 months. Like I don't even know how. And I think that's why it took a while for my body to really like regain strength because she like took
Yeah.
every strength, out of me. And I just went through a lot of holistic healing. Like I just asked God, God, just please send me, the right doctors, the right people that are going to listen to me if medications are going to mess with my body, please help me to detox out of these medications. Like, and just different things would just come and
Yeah.
that were holistic, that were good stuff that really helped me. And
Yeah.
I am so thankful because it really has helped me dramatically to be even here. I was 33 when that happened. I'm
Yeah, I
40 now,
remember.
like,
Yeah.
like four, like seven, like I'm just like, God, you're so good. Like I'm still here
Yes.
and I can talk about it. And when my kids, and that power of prayer was so important because I homeschooled my kids up until 2020 when we opened up the micro school, and which I absolutely love. I love teaching my kids and just having fun with them,
Mm.
and I was blessed to be able to do that and take care of them. And one of the things that I love to do is take them to the library and do like story time and everything like that. And they love that so much. And so when
Yeah.
I had the stroke and I couldn't drive, and I
Uh,
just couldn't do a lot of things, every night, my babies, like especially my son and my oldest daughter too, but my son was just like always praying like, Mommy, God, please heal my mommy so she can drive me to the library for story time. I mean, how
Oh,
pure. Like, it's not like, but in that vision, I held onto that vision. I was like, that's
yeah.
my vision. I am going to drive my kids. They're going to be in the car with me. I'm going to be able to carry the things that I need to carry. I'm going to get to walk in there with them. And you would think it's like winning the Super Bowl or something or winning the lottery,
Yeah.
right? Like, but that's when that time came, like about 8 months later, and I was able to drive, and
Oh.
I was driving them to first to my son's swim class, and then to the library. My kids in the back the whole time were just cheering me on. They were just like,
Oh.
"Go, mommy! Like we prayed for this. Look what you're doing. You're driving us." And then as we're driving to the library and we get there, we get out and we're walking to the library, and my son's like, Yay, we made it. Mommy, look, you drove us. You took us to the library for story time.
Wow.
And that visual, it was that it's so awesome. The kids are amazing, right?
Yeah.
They really, they
Oh.
really help us um visualize what's really important.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
100%.
all these other things, there's what's important to them. There's their world is like their whole worldview is, different, but it's
Yeah.
actually such a big thing, I will never forget their cheers in the back. Like I can hear it, still right now with their little
Yeah.
voices, like cheering me on. And it was
Yeah.
also like a reminder. It was like God also just saying, like, look what you're doing. You can
Yeah.
do it. You can do it. And it's the power of prayer, but also instilling that, right, with my children
Yeah.
to pray with such a fervent prayer, with such a
Yeah.
confidence that it's going to happen. And
Yeah.
for them to see it come true, it's like, look
Hmm.
what my prayers did. Like I told
Yeah.
God, I asked him, and look, you're here, you're driving us.
Yeah.
And after that, I mean, I had quite a few different episodes of like a lot of different seizure episodes and things like that I had to really deal with in the last couple of years. But every single time something happened or whatnot, I mean, they're the first ones to just pray over me and just say, you're going to get better, and speak life more
Hmm.
abundantly. And, those are the things that I'm so thankful for. I'm like, thank God that we have instilled this type of mindset and that type of belief, because it's not just me saying it, like they believe it in their heart.
Yeah.
It's that they have that real confidence that they know, and they
Yeah.
believe that I will be healed and it will get
Yeah.
better. Um,
And not
and
just that, but the example as parents that you set as you are going through this. Some people in instances like that, they actually will get further from God and
oh
be
yes,
upset,
yeah,
well,
yeah,
why has God put me through this?
yes,
But you chose to hold and grow closer to God through it. And
yes,
your children saw that,
mm,
like they will remember that as they get older of how mom was that example of even when you're going through hard times, you stay close to God. So,
yes.
how beautiful is that, that you are able to show them that on a daily basis and through hard times? Like as we know, God doesn't promise that you won't go through hard times.
No, no. And there's definitely, a lot of, yeah, I think finding that joy and that like peace in the
Mhm.
middle of like dark times and hard times and times when you do
Yeah.
feel like you want to give up, and just reminding yourself, like, yeah, hold on, because they're watching us all the time,
Mhm.
right? Our kids do as we do, not just what we say, and
Yeah.
so what they see as an example in that sense, for sure. And I even, like, I love it so much. Like today I actually just got, um she's like, I call her Mama Dorita. I've adopted her. Like I told you, I adopt all the elders, but
Yeah.
her amazing husband, Papa Johnny, just passed away last year. And um,
Oh.
my youngest daughter, Astra. So I would take my kids. We have a nursing home ministry, and so I take my kids, since I homeschool them. I'd bring them with me,
Oh, how
and they always
special.
brought so much joy in the
Oh.
nursing home. Like, and this is like, it's so beautiful what God does when they're with me and they're singing the songs and they're praying over them. I mean, it's just,
Oh.
there's something when a young child and a senior citizen meet, and they're both the same. It's like, you got to take care of them. Both of them
Yeah.
are the same. And it's just, but something beautiful happens. It like lights them up. And so my kids have that same type of like loving care towards the elders, which like
Yeah.
I'm so thankful of, because I want them to be respectful and be caring. But they've gone to their own convictions of loving their elders too. And
Yeah.
so they are really, really so caring. And so Papa Johnny, when he was battling cancer, and we had visited him at the hospital before he got sent to hospice, and he wouldn't eat. And my youngest
Mm.
daughter, Astra, she's a little boss baby. She's the
Mm.
cutest and sweetest. She'll tell you what to do. Um, she,
Oh.
so he would not eat. And so she took it upon herself to grab the spoon, and she was like, Papa, open your mouth. This is the
Oh.
plane. Like, it's almost like a parent. It was so crazy to see that contrast. And I wish I took a video, but I was so immersed in what she was doing. We were all
Oh.
immersed about, and she was like feeding him, and he hadn't eaten much. He ate so much more food that day. And Mama Dorita just gave her a little card today, And I like teared up because she wrote that that was like the last time he ate anything, and that
Oh,
he ate more food from Astra that day than he's ever eaten from her trying to feed her, you know? And I was like, wow, how sweet. And then she told me, she goes, yeah, that was his last time. That was his last meal. Is what she fed
oh,
him was his last meal before he passed.
that's so special.
And it was so special because that's, that love, right? That
Hmm.
love that is that agape love, that unconditional love,
Yeah.
and really, and also love in action. Love is a verb, and in
Hmm.
action, and just like and showing that. And he hadn't talked much. He smiled, he laughed, he could barely really speak, but it brought him so much joy that day when she
Wow.
came and fed him and stuff. And
Yeah.
not knowing that that was the last, and I didn't think that was his last meal, but she said that was his last meal that he ate, and it was from Astra. And so
Wow.
Mama Dorita, who's just the sweetest, she's in her 80s, she's like wrote Astra this
Mhm.
sweet note, and she's like, I wanted to let her know and acknowledge her of what she did. Just because she's little, I want to acknowledge her that what she did was huge, and she
Yeah.
made a big difference. And to me,
Oh,
it's like, oh, that's so beautiful,
yeah.
and those are the testimonies for me that just gets me excited.
Yeah. And to remind her of that, when she gets older too, so that she can carry on the tradition with her children. And
Yes.
it's sad, to see that so many senior citizens are just forgotten about and they're in those homes, they're alone. The children, don't visit. And again, like I said, though, it is a real issue. And like I said, I experienced that with my own grandfather, which, funny enough, is
Mm.
part of my own testimony of a miracle that I saw. And
Mm.
I'm trying to get my sister on the podcast to talk about this because it just is so much more intense when she's here. But my grandfather was had hospice, right? So he was at home and the nurses were coming in to help care for him. And I got a phone call at work. I was working mortgage at the time and married and dealing with the four children. So my life was just chaos at that time. And my sister calls me and was like, well, mom says that you need to call your church and you need to get a pastor over here to pray for
Mm.
grandpa because the hospice pastor is not available.
Oh,
And
wow.
he's had the death rattle for the last 3 days and he
Wow.
had not spoke or anything or opened his eyes for the last week.
Oh,
And
wow.
I said, well, I was like, you guys don't work. I'm like, why are you calling me? They're like, well, you're the one who goes to church. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, let me call my pastor. I said, I'll figure this out. So I call in, I asked the pastor to go over and pray for my grandfather. So I rush out of work, arrange pickup for my kids and rush over to my mom's house. And I open the door and just like you said, God puts the puzzle pieces together. Well, it ended up not being the pastor from my church. It was another pastor that works under him and I wasn't
Mm.
expecting him when I opened the door, but he happened to have married one of my best friends a few years before. And
Wow.
I was in her wedding. And so I was like, oh, Lee, I was like, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, well, the pastor couldn't make it. So I'll come and, I'm going to pray. Well, he walks into the back room and my grandfather, me and my sister are standing at the foot of the bed, right? Watching this interaction. And he walks up to the side of my grandfather's bed, and my grandfather grabs his neck collar, pulls himself up to his face about this close. And he says, clear as day. And I told you that my grandfather had had multiple strokes and could not form sentences for years. For years, my grandfather was in this state and had had the death rattle for 3 days. And he says, clear as day, are you here to pray for me?
Mm.
And me and my sister look at each other and excuse me for my language, but we both look at each other. And at the same time, we said, what the F? And we're like, what? And then Lee says, yes, Lawrence, I'm here to pray for you today. And my grandfather let go of the collar of his shirt and just laid back down, and he put his hands over his chest, and he just laid there, and he let him pray over him. And
Oh,
it was a beautiful experience for me and my sister to witness together. And
wow.
my mom was not even in the room. It was so crazy, just the way that everything happened. And then shortly after the hospice, after he left, the hospice pastor came to pray over him, and he didn't move. Nothing. It was not the same interaction when the other pastor
Oh,
came in, but it was something that again confirms to me God is real. No one will
yeah.
ever convince me otherwise, because I have seen things just as
Yeah.
and here we are, to help spread the good word of God and tell people, nope, he's real. We've seen it. We've seen him work in our own lives. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's just super cool. I love what you do, what you stand for, and how beautiful that you're here to share your testimony about your strokes and the things that you went through, and that you just never lost your faith, because that isn't the case with everybody. And
No.
I love that your faith is so strong that no matter what, like, you're getting through it. And it's just such a beautiful testimony for you. And thank you for sharing it.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me and letting me share it. I felt like I went all over the place. So I don't even
Yeah.
know.
Well, I mean, you have such a crazy testimony, from beginning to end, coming here. I didn't even know that you were from the Philippines, that that's where you were born. I didn't know
Yeah.
that history about you. And that's so cool. I only know one language. I'm very impressed that you can speak two fluently. If you're planning a trip to Vegas, don't forget to pre-book your off-road adventure with Adrenaline Junkies using code MonicaAnn for 10% off the subtotal before taxes. You can enjoy the thrill of an off-road adventure to the famous ghost town, and even add on a trip to the Hoover Dam, cliff dive at Lake Mead, the shooting range, and a helicopter tour over the Las Vegas Strip. Just go to adrenalinejunkies.co to book now.
Well, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank
This is
you.
like so awesome. I was just like, oh, it would be awesome when I posted that, and you're like, okay, well, here,
Yes. Yeah.
I love how like on top of things you were. I didn't really think, much of it in the sense of like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
gonna get on it like anytime soon. But I love to testify of the goodness of God. He's just brought me so far. So it's like
Yeah.
it's
I
beautiful to be able
naturally
to share
ask
it.
questions from people of like, how did you come to be a believer?
Hmm.
What does that look like? Because I think that people, again, who are maybe like on the fence, maybe about especially religion, um, they have just this stereotype of what they think a churchgoer looks like, and the
Yeah.
way that they live their life. And it's like, nope,
Hmm.
we all have our own testimony. Most of us have come to God in many different ways. And I think that sharing that really opens up the door for a lot of people. So I do feel
Yeah.
like this is my calling. is
No, it's awesome. Like I didn't even mention some of my, high school days here, but God really has taken me from there too. So, but
Yes.
like just God is just, man, I just say thank you for being there, keeping me from danger. His
Yes.
hand was on me away from danger because too many times it was like so close, right? Like
Yes.
literally right there in the precipice of that, like death
Yeah.
or, life. And I'm so thankful that he was with us and how does because I think we've got something what you're doing, there's something huge here. I love that you're doing this and I
Mm.
am excited and I'm thinking, ooh, who else can I like maybe share with her and who can be on her
Yeah.
podcast because
Oh yeah. Please
I
do
want to
recommend
help
people.
grow it for sure. And I think it's so awesome. It's so awesome. And I'm
Yeah.
all about that collaboration. I think you and I have kind of the same mindset. We're collaborators, we're connectors. We're not like,
Hmm.
we don't really try to like compete with people. We are
Yeah.
not looking for competition. We're looking for collaboration and
Yeah.
connection and unity and teamwork. We're like that type of people. And I love that so
Yes.
much because we deal with that in this world, so much of that, but it's so beautiful to see the like-mindedness in the heart.
Yes,
of that same
absolutely.
genuine spirit. And so like
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited that I get to be on this with her. So you're
Yeah.
awesome, Monica.
Very
And
cool.
I just pray blessings and blessings over you and your lineage.
Yes.
They will serve the Lord forever and
Thank
your
you.
children's children's children.
Yes,
Yes.
and you too. I pray nothing
Amen.
but the best for you and everything that you have your hand on and everything in the future as well. So again, thank you so much, Carla. I
Yes,
appreciate it.
thank you. Yes, take care.
Bye.